I still remember the sound of my daughter crying that night. The metal walls around us trembled every time a truck rolled past the storage facility. My 7-year-old son, Ethan, wrapped his little arms around his sister while I held a flashlight in my shaking hand. And standing outside Unit 214, staring in disbelief, was the billionaire landlord who owned the entire property. He looked at the blankets on the concrete floor. He looked at the small table where we ate our meals. And then he saw my children. At that moment, I thought everything was over. I thought he was about to throw us out. But I had no idea that this man walking into our lives would uncover a secret that would change everything. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my story of betrayal, and if you've ever trusted the wrong person, hit that subscribe button, because you are not alone. Here is how it happened. I was reading comments on my YouTube videos the other day, and I realized I wasn't the only one. Thousands of people had stories about betrayal, broken promises, and moments when life pushed them to the edge. And that's why I finally decided to tell my own story. My name is Emma Carter. 3 years ago, I wasn't living in a beautiful house. I wasn't driving a nice car. And I certainly wasn't imagining that my life would one day become something people talked about online. I was simply a mother trying to keep her children alive. Everything started after my husband, Daniel, disappeared. He didn't die. He didn't go missing. He chose to leave. After 10 years of marriage, he packed his clothes, emptied our savings account, and walked away with another woman. He left me with 2 children, unpaid bills, and a mountain of debt. I spent months believing he would come back. He never did. Soon, the bank repossessed our car. Then we lost our apartment. I worked double shifts at a diner while cleaning offices at night, but every dollar disappeared faster than I could earn it. Friends slowly stopped answering my calls. Family members offered sympathy, but nobody offered a room. One night, after sleeping in my car with Ethan and little Lily, I realized something terrifying. We had nowhere left to go. I cried silently while my children slept. Then I remembered something. A storage facility outside town offered climate-controlled units. Cheap monthly rent. 24-hour access. Nobody asked questions. And that was how Unit 214 became our home. I know it sounds unbelievable. But when you're desperate, survival doesn't care about pride. I bought folding mattresses from a thrift store. A camping stove. Plastic containers for clothes. Battery-powered lights. I even decorated the walls with drawings my kids made because I wanted them to believe this wasn't forever. Every morning, we woke up before sunrise. We used the public restroom near the gas station. I made peanut butter sandwiches while pretending it was an adventure. Ethan knew the truth. He was only 7, but he acted older. Too old. One night, I overheard him whispering to his sister. "Don't worry, Lily. Mommy's trying really hard." Those words shattered me. Children shouldn't have to comfort each other. They should be dreaming about cartoons and birthday parties. Not survival. Still, we had rules. No loud noises. No visitors. No telling anyone where we lived. And most importantly, never let management see us. For almost 6 months, we survived. Some days I thought maybe life was finally stabilizing. Until the owner changed. Rumors spread among tenants. People said a billionaire investor had bought the property. His name was Alexander Hayes. Everyone talked about him. The mysterious businessman who owned hotels, apartment buildings, and commercial properties across the country. Nobody ever saw him in person. Managers handled everything. But then something strange happened. One Tuesday afternoon, while I was working at the diner, my phone rang. It was Ethan. His voice trembled. "Mom, some people are here. They're inspecting the units." My heart stopped. I abandoned my shift and drove like a madwoman. When I arrived, black luxury SUVs were parked outside. Employees were walking around with clipboards. And standing near Unit 214 was a tall man in a dark coat. Alexander Hayes himself. The billionaire landlord. And he was reaching for the lock on our unit. What happened next nearly destroyed me. End of Part 1. Part 2. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. I jumped out of my car and ran toward Unit 214. Please. I shouted. Stop. The tall man standing beside the open storage door turned around. Alexander Hayes. The billionaire everyone in town talked about. His expensive coat, polished shoes, and calm expression made him seem like someone who belonged in a completely different world. And then he looked behind me. Ethan and Lily were sitting quietly inside the unit. My son froze. My daughter clutched her teddy bear. For a moment, nobody spoke. I prepared myself for the worst. I'm sorry, I said through tears. Please don't call the police. I'll leave. Just give me a day. Please. His employees exchanged uncomfortable glances. One woman lowered her clipboard. Another man looked away. But Alexander Hayes kept staring at the inside of Unit 214. Not with anger. Not with disgust. But with something I couldn't understand. Sadness. He slowly stepped inside. His eyes moved across the folding mattresses. The small shelf where we stored canned food. The drawings taped to the wall. The old camping stove. And then he noticed something. A birthday card. Handmade with crayons. It read. Happy birthday, Mommy. We love you forever. Lily smiled nervously. I made that. Alexander knelt down. When was your birthday? He asked softly. Last week, Lily answered. He looked back at me. You celebrated in here? I couldn't answer. I was too ashamed. I tried to make it special, I whispered. Nobody said anything. The employees stood silently. Then Alexander surprised everyone. Everyone outside, he said. The managers immediately obeyed. Soon, only the four of us remained inside. I held my breath. He looked directly at me. How long? 6 months. His eyes widened. 6 months? I nodded. My husband left us. I lost everything. He remained silent. Then he asked another question. Where are your parents? My mother passed away. And your father? He left when I was little. What about siblings? No one. He looked at Ethan. The boy stood protectively in front of his sister. Alexander noticed it too. He watches over her, he asked quietly. I smiled sadly. Every day. For several seconds, the billionaire simply stood there. Then he turned around and walked out. My heart sank. This was it. We were finished. Outside, I heard him talking to his employees. Then I heard raised voices. One manager argued. But sir, company policy. Alexander interrupted him. I don't care about policy. Another employee spoke. Sir, if people find out. I said I don't care. His voice had become ice cold. Moments later, he returned. I expected eviction papers. Instead, he handed me a business card. My assistant's number. I stared at him. What is this? Call her tomorrow morning. I looked confused. Why? He paused. Because children shouldn't sleep inside storage units. Before I could say anything, he walked away. The black SUVs disappeared. And I stood there completely stunned. The next morning, I almost didn't call. People had made promises before. Most of them disappeared. But something inside me whispered that maybe. Just maybe. This was different. At exactly 9 o'clock, I dialed the number. A woman answered. Mr. Hayes has been expecting your call. My hands shook. He has? Yes, Mrs. Carter. He asked me to arrange temporary housing immediately. I nearly dropped the phone. What? The apartment is already paid for. I thought I heard wrong. Paid for? 3 months. Utilities included. I sat down in shock. No, there must be some mistake. There isn't. Tears streamed down my face. After months of hopelessness, someone had finally helped us. 2 days later, we moved into a small apartment. Nothing luxurious. But to us, it felt like heaven. Lily jumped onto her own bed and screamed with happiness. Ethan stood quietly near the window. Mom, he whispered. We have a home again. That night, for the first time in months, I slept without fear. But I didn't know something strange was happening. Because Alexander Hayes wasn't helping us out of charity alone. No. After leaving Unit 214 that day, he had ordered a private investigation. And what his investigators discovered about my ex-husband, Daniel, made the billionaire furious. Because Daniel wasn't just a man who abandoned his family. He was hiding something far worse. Something connected to Alexander Hayes himself. And when the truth came out, everything would explode. End of part 2. What happened next would change all our lives for Eve. Part 3. For the first time in months, I woke up without hearing trucks outside a metal door. No cold concrete floor. No fear of being discovered. No pretending that life inside a storage unit was just a game. Lily slept peacefully in her own bed. Ethan smiled more. And every morning, I thanked God for the stranger who had saved us. But deep inside, I knew something wasn't right. Why would a billionaire help complete strangers? People with money usually donated through charities. They didn't personally inspect storage units. They didn't pay rent for women they had never met. And they definitely didn't call. And they definitely didn't call their assistants at midnight to arrange furniture and groceries. Yet Alexander Hayes had done exactly that. A week later, his assistant, Rachel, called me. Mr. Hayes would like to meet with you. I froze. Why? He didn't say. My stomach tightened. Had I done something wrong? Did he want the apartment back? Was this all temporary? The next afternoon, I entered the enormous Hayes corporate building. Everything around me screamed wealth. Glass walls. Marble floors. People in expensive suits. I felt completely out of place. Rachel greeted me warmly. He's waiting. When I entered his office, Alexander stood near the window. He didn't smile. He looked serious. Very serious. Sit down, Emma. His tone made me nervous. Then he placed a file on the desk. My heart stopped when I saw the name. Daniel Carter. My ex-husband. What is this? I whispered. Alexander slowly sat down. After I met your children, something bothered me. I stared at him. So I had someone look into Daniel. My hands began shaking. What did you find? Alexander looked angry. Not at me. At Daniel. Your husband owes several people money. I wasn't surprised. He emptied our savings. Alexander nodded. But that's not the worst part. He opened the file. Pictures. Documents. Bank statements. And one photograph made my blood run cold. Daniel. Standing beside another woman. Not the woman he had left me for. Someone else. And she was pregnant. I stared in disbelief. Who is she? Alexander answered quietly. His third girlfriend. My world spun. Third. Not second. Third. For years, I blamed myself. I thought maybe I wasn't pretty enough. Maybe I worked too much. Maybe I had failed as a wife. And now I discovered he had cheated with multiple women. But Alexander wasn't finished. There is more. I looked up. He used fake names. What? He scammed women. Borrowed money. Disappeared. I couldn't breathe. No. Emma, your husband is being investigated for fraud. Everything inside me collapsed. 10 years. 10 years with a stranger. I covered my mouth and burst into tears. Alexander remained silent. He didn't interrupt. He simply waited. Finally, I whispered. Why are you showing me this? His expression changed. Because what he said next shocked me. Because Daniel stole from me too. I stared at him. What? Alexander opened another file. 2 years ago, I invested in a startup company through a middleman. He pointed at a photograph. And there he was. Daniel. Older. Bearded. Using another name. I couldn't believe my eyes. No. Alexander nodded. He disappeared with several $100,000. I looked at him in horror. My husband stole from you? Alexander's jaw tightened. Yes. Suddenly everything made sense. The investigation. His anger. The reason he looked disturbed when he saw our children. He wasn't helping strangers. He had discovered that the woman living in Unit 214 was the wife of the man who betrayed him. I stood up immediately. I'm sorry. He frowned. For what? For him. For everything. Alexander looked genuinely confused. Emma, you didn't steal anything. But. Stop. His voice softened. You and your children are victims too. Tears filled my eyes again. Nobody had ever said that to me. Everyone blamed me. My friends. Daniel's family. Even I blamed myself. But this man. This billionaire. Didn't. Then Rachel knocked on the door. Mr. Hayes, your brother is here. Alexander sighed heavily. Tell him I'll be there. But before Rachel left, she looked nervous. Sir, he's angry. Alexander closed his eyes. I'll handle it. After she left, he muttered quietly. My brother thinks I've lost my mind helping you. I froze. What? He believes you're using me. I immediately stood up. Then I should go. Alexander shook his head. No. But I don't want problems in your family. He looked strangely tired. Too late. And then the office doors suddenly burst open. A man stormed inside. Tall. Expensive suit. Furious eyes. He pointed directly at me. So this is her? Alexander stood up instantly. Michael, enough. But his brother ignored him. He glared at me with hatred. Then he shouted words that made my blood freeze. That woman is connected to the man who ruined our father. The entire room fell silent. I stared at Alexander. He stared back. And in that moment, I realized there was something far bigger hidden in Daniel's past. Something neither of us had known. And whatever secret Michael Hayes was about to reveal could destroy everything. End of Part 3. Part 4. The office became deathly silent. I looked at Alexander. Then at his brother. Then back again. Michael Hayes stood there breathing heavily, his face red with anger. Tell her, he shouted. Tell her what her husband did to Dad. Alexander's eyes darkened. Michael, not here. Not here? Michael snapped. This woman deserves to know who she was married to. My legs suddenly felt weak. What are you talking about? I whispered. Michael laughed bitterly. You really don't know, do you? Alexander stepped between us. Enough. No. Michael yelled. I'm tired of pretending. He turned toward me. 3 years ago, our father trusted a man who promised him the investment of a lifetime. I felt sick. Michael continued. That man used fake documents. Fake companies. Fake identities. My breathing stopped. And after stealing millions, he vanished. Alexander lowered his head. Our father never recovered. Michael's voice cracked. The stress destroyed him. Tears filled his eyes. He died 6 months later. I covered my mouth. No. My entire body trembled. Daniel. The man I married. The father of my children. Had destroyed another family. Alexander finally spoke. Emma, I never wanted you to hear it like this. But I couldn't hear anything anymore. My ears rang. Everything around me blurred. And suddenly, I remembered something. 3 years earlier. Daniel had come home excited. He told me he had made a fortune. He bought expensive watches. A new car. Jewelry. He said he had gotten lucky in business. And I believed him. God. I believed him. I started crying uncontrollably. I didn't know. Michael's expression softened slightly. I know. Alexander looked at his brother. She didn't know any of this. Michael sighed. Then something unexpected happened. He sat down. His anger slowly disappeared. I know she's innocent, he admitted. But every time I see her, I see him. Nobody spoke. Finally, I stood up. I'm sorry for your father. Michael looked away. So am I. And for the first time since entering that office, I saw grief instead of hatred. But I couldn't stay. I couldn't breathe. I walked out. And cried the entire way home. That night, I looked at my sleeping children and wondered if I had ever truly known their father. Who had I married? Who had shared my bed for 10 years? Who had smiled while living a double life? And how many people had suffered because of him? Days passed. Then weeks. I avoided Alexander's calls. His messages. Rachel's phone calls. Everything. Because I felt ashamed. Even though everyone told me I wasn't guilty. I couldn't escape the feeling. One evening, while I was working at the diner, Ethan asked me a question that shattered my heart. Mom? Yes? Was Dad a bad person? I froze. Children always know when something is wrong. I knelt beside him. He made bad choices. Did he stop loving us? Tears burned my eyes. No, sweetheart. But deep inside, I wasn't sure anymore. Ethan looked down. I miss him. Those words broke me. Because despite everything, Daniel was still his father. That night, after putting the kids to bed, someone knocked on the apartment door. I opened it. Alexander. Standing alone. No security. No assistance. Just him. I'm sorry, he said quietly. You have nothing to apologize for. He smiled sadly. You disappeared. I needed time. He nodded. Then he handed me something. A photo. I looked at it. And froze. It was an old picture. Alexander. His father. And a little girl. Who's she? I asked. His eyes became distant. My sister. I noticed the tears in his eyes. What happened to her? He swallowed hard. She died when she was 8. My heart sank. When? 25 years ago. He looked away. Leukemia. For the first time, I saw pain behind the billionaire image. Not wealth. Not power. Pain. Loneliness. Regret. Then he smiled at Lily's drawings hanging on the refrigerator. You know, he said softly. When I saw your daughter sleeping inside that storage unit. His voice broke. She reminded me of my sister. Tears filled his eyes. And I couldn't walk away. Suddenly, I understood. He hadn't helped us because of money. He hadn't helped us because he felt sorry. He helped us because somewhere inside, he was trying to save the little girl he had lost. And for the first time, I saw Alexander Hayes not as a billionaire, but as a man carrying scars nobody could see. Then his phone rang. He answered. And within seconds, the color drained from his face. What? Silence. No, that's impossible. He looked shocked. Terrified. I had never seen fear in his eyes before. Slowly, he lowered the phone. I stepped closer. Alexander? His voice trembled. They found him. I froze. Who? He looked straight at me. Daniel. And then he said words that made my blood run cold. He's coming back. End of part 4. I felt the blood drain from my face. Daniel? I whispered. Alexander nodded slowly. My investigators got a call an hour ago. Someone spotted him crossing the state line. I stared at him in disbelief. No. After 3 years. 3 years without a phone call. 3 years without child support. 3 years without even asking if his children were alive. And now, he was coming back. Why? I asked. Alexander's expression hardened. Because he's desperate. He handed me his phone. On the screen was a news article. Federal investigators had frozen several accounts connected to Daniel's fraud network. Most of his money had disappeared. His fake identities were exposed. And now he had nowhere left to run. He needs something, Alexander said quietly. And desperate men are dangerous. That night, I barely slept. Neither did Alexander. He arranged private security around the apartment. I hated it. I wasn't used to guards. But he insisted. Until he's caught, I won't take risks. The next morning, I was preparing breakfast when someone knocked on the door. 3 knocks. My heart stopped. Ethan looked up. Mom? I walked toward the door carefully. And froze. Daniel. Standing there. Older. Thinner. But unmistakably Daniel. Lily smiled. Daddy. Before I could stop her, she ran forward. Daniel knelt down and hugged her. And suddenly, tears appeared in his eyes. Ethan. Lily. Ethan didn't move. He simply stared. Confused. Hurt. Angry. I stepped between them. You don't get to do this. Daniel looked exhausted. Emma, please. No. Just let me explain. You disappeared for 3 years. I know. You abandoned your children. I know. You destroyed our lives. He lowered his head. I know. But something felt strange. This wasn't the arrogant man I remembered. This was someone broken. Someone terrified. Then he looked over his shoulder. And whispered. They're following me. I frowned. What? His voice trembled. I made enemies, Emma. Suddenly, a black SUV appeared at the end of the street. Daniel panicked. Oh God. Another SUV stopped. Then another. Daniel's face turned white. They found me. I grabbed my children. Who? But before he could answer, Alexander's security team rushed forward. And moments later, Alexander himself stepped out of his car. The second he saw Daniel, his eyes turned cold. Years of anger. Years of pain. Years of unanswered questions. Standing face to face. Daniel slowly stood up. And whispered. "I'm sorry." Alexander's fists tightened. "Sorry?" Daniel nodded. "I deserve whatever happens." Security moved closer. But Alexander raised his hand. "No." Everyone froze. Daniel looked shocked. "I know you hate me." Alexander stared at him. "Hate?" His voice cracked. "My father died because of you." Daniel closed his eyes. "I know. You stole millions. I know. You ruined families. I know." Alexander stepped forward. "So why are you here?" And then Daniel said something none of us expected. "Because they're after my children." My heart stopped. "What?" Daniel turned toward me. "The people I worked with." His eyes filled with tears. "They want money I no longer have." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They threatened Ethan and Lily. Suddenly, fear replaced anger. Alexander's expression changed immediately. "Who?" Daniel reached into his pocket. Security aimed weapons. "Stop," he yelled. "It's evidence." He slowly handed Alexander a flash drive. "Everything is there. Names. Accounts. Companies. Everything. I've been running for months." He looked at me. "But I couldn't die without protecting them." Tears rolled down his face. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness." He looked at Ethan and Lily. "But I love them." Ethan finally spoke. "Then why did you leave us?" The little boy's voice broke everyone's hearts. Daniel collapsed into tears. Because he had no answer. No excuse. No lies. Only shame. Then suddenly. Bang! A gunshot echoed down the street. Everyone screamed. Security agents reacted instantly. Alexander tackled me and the children to the ground. Another shot shattered a window. Chaos exploded. Daniel turned around. And before anyone could stop him, he ran. Straight toward the danger. "No!" I screamed. Another gunshot. And Daniel fell. Time stopped. Ethan screamed. Lily cried. I couldn't breathe. Alexander held me back. Security surrounded the area. And there, lying on the pavement, was Daniel. Motionless. Blood spreading beneath him. His eyes slowly found mine. And with his last strength, he whispered 4 words that changed everything. "Check Lily's necklace." Then his eyes closed. And everything went silent. End of part 5. Everything around me disappeared. The screams. The flashing police lights. The voices. All I could hear was Ethan crying. "Dad! Dad!" Lily clung to me, shaking uncontrollably. And there, on the pavement, lay the man I had loved, hated, and mourned long before he died. Daniel Carter. The father of my children. Gone. For a long time, nobody moved. Alexander kept his arms around Ethan and Lily while I sat frozen. Then I remembered Daniel's final words. "Check Lily's necklace." My hands trembled. I looked down. Lily's small silver necklace. The one Daniel had given her on her 4th birthday. I had never thought much about it. Carefully, I removed it. Alexander looked confused. "What is it?" His last words. I examined the tiny heart-shaped pendant. Then I noticed something strange. There was a hidden latch. Inside. A miniature memory card. Everyone stared in disbelief. Alexander immediately called his cybersecurity team. Hours later, we sat together in his office. On the screen appeared documents, videos, passwords, bank records, and recordings. Enough evidence to destroy the entire criminal network Daniel had been involved with. But one video file caught my attention. Its name simply read, "For Emma and the kids." I froze. Alexander looked at me gently. "You don't have to watch it now." But I nodded. The screen came alive. And suddenly, there was Daniel. Older. Tired. Broken. He looked directly into the camera. "Emma." His voice cracked. "If you're watching this, I'm probably gone." Tears filled my eyes. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness." He paused. "I failed you. I failed Ethan. I failed Lily. And I failed God." He wiped tears from his eyes. "But there is one truth you deserve to know." I stopped breathing. "The money I stole, most of it is gone." Alexander remained silent. "But I hid one account." I looked at Alexander. He looked equally shocked. Daniel continued. "I couldn't return all the lives I destroyed. But I wanted to leave something for our children." He gave account numbers. Passwords. Locations. Then he said something unexpected. "Alexander Hayes." The billionaire raised his head. "If you're watching this too." Daniel's eyes filled with shame. "I'm sorry for your father." Silence filled the room. No amount of money can bring him back. But I swear I never intended for him to die. Alexander lowered his head. For the first time, I saw tears in his eyes. And then Daniel smiled weakly. "Emma, if there's one thing I learned while running, it's that money means nothing if you lose the people who love you. I spent my life chasing greed. And in the process, I lost everything." He looked straight into the camera. "Please don't let Ethan and Lily remember me as a monster." Then the video ended. Nobody spoke. Not even Alexander. Weeks later, authorities arrested the remaining criminals. Millions of dollars were recovered. Most of the money went to compensate victims. But a trust fund Daniel had secretly created remained untouched. Enough to guarantee Ethan and Lily's education. Life slowly changed. Not overnight. Healing never happens overnight. But slowly. Beautifully. Months later, Ethan smiled again. Lily laughed again. And I learned how to breathe again. One sunny afternoon, Alexander invited us to visit a place outside the city. I expected another office. Another building. Instead, we arrived at a beautiful piece of land. Construction workers were everywhere. "What is this?" I asked. Alexander smiled. "A dream." Then he handed me a sign. And tears instantly filled my eyes. The Lily and Grace Family Center. Grace. His sister's name. Lily. My daughter. Together. "A shelter?" I whispered. He nodded. "For mothers and children. For families with nowhere to go." I burst into tears. "Why?" Alexander smiled. "Because no child should sleep inside a storage unit." 1 year later, hundreds of families had found hope there. Women escaping abuse. Single mothers. Children who needed safety. And every Christmas, Ethan and Lily helped distribute gifts. One evening, while watching the sunset outside the center, Ethan asked Alexander something. "Mr. Hayes?" Alexander smiled. "Yes, buddy." "Are you family?" Alexander froze. His eyes watered. And after a long silence, he answered softly. "Only if your mom allows it." Everyone laughed. Including me. Because somewhere along the journey, Without planning it. Without forcing it. Without even realizing it. Love had quietly entered our lives again. Not the kind built on lies. Not the kind built on money. But the kind built on trust. And as I watched my children laughing beside the man who had once discovered us living inside a storage unit, I finally understood something. Sometimes the people who break your heart teach you how strong you are. And sometimes the strangers who walk into your darkest moments become the family you were always meant to find. If my story taught me anything, it's this. Being poor is not shameful. Asking for help is not weakness. And no matter how dark life becomes, hope has a way of knocking on the door when you least expect it. And sometimes it arrives disguised as a stranger. The end.